much of postural restoration focuses on the idea of bringing someone's body from a state of sympathetic overdrive, so fight or flight, to a more parasympathetic state. And these patterns that we get stuck in often reflect a system or a body that's stuck in a sympathetic state, into that fight or flight. It's an anxious, fearful, stiff, tense, unstable, rigid body. And we're trying to get that body to become more unstable, but in a good way. By destabilizing that body, it becomes a stable body because it's too rigid to begin with. Stable can react to any type of circumstance. It is a more restful body. It can not be stressed out. It can just relax and deal with life as it comes in changing situations. And life is pretty much the same way. And one of the reasons I love PRI is because it reflects life. It's just describing, it's not a system, it's describing how humans move and stabilize their bodies in space according to the environment. And you can say the same thing about life. Much of life is how we react, how we move in life in a mind sense, and how we stabilize when things go wrong, or how we react when things go wrong, or not even to wrong, because wrong is really a judgment thing. There is no wrong or right. We attach events, or we attach meanings to events and things in our life. Because how many times have something really bad happened and you look back 2 years later and say, well, thank God that happened. Thank God that girl dumped me. I've said that many times. So a lot of times in order to relax, because that's a big deal, de-stressing. Everyone wants to de-stress. So how do you de-stress? Well, you could do a lot of things. You can get a hobby, you can get massages, you could stretch, which I don't think is a great thing. Yoga is a very popular thing, which again, conditionally is good for a lot of people. For a lot of people, it's not. There's a lot of ways you can de-stress. Relaxing music. But none of that is really focusing on what's causing the stress and the anxiety in the first place. They're just Band-Aids. So you have to confront what is actually causing the anxiety and stress in the first place. What's making you so stressed out and so anxious? So here's a couple thoughts. I'll call them relaxing thoughts. They don't cause immediate relaxation. Actually, they might cause short-term anxiety because it makes you consider things that maybe you haven't thought about before. But in the long run, I know they work because I've been through it. I've gone from very, very unhappy in life, always stressed out, always anxious, couldn't sleep, still can't sleep great. Actually, I'm getting better at that, but that'll be another video. Completely just didn't know what to do with myself, to pretty happy and stable and relaxed. And some of these thoughts have to do with that. So, number one, this is the easiest one. Social media is bullshit. If you're comparing yourself to people on social media, someone said that, I love this quote, comparing is despairing. You're not that person, and the fact is, you don't know what that person's life really is like. One of my favorite philosophers, Montaigne, don't know how to say his last name, he was French, 1600s. He wrote, "Our life is part folly, part wisdom. Whoever writes about it only reverently and according to the rules leaves out more than half." Meaning, if you translate into social media, people on Instagram, Facebook, and let's just talk about Instagram because if it's fitness related, it's probably on Instagram. These people with their perfect bodies and butts and everything, you think, this person must have such an amazing life because they look like that. And that's not necessarily the truth. It's probably not the truth at all, because again, if they were that happy, if they did have that great of a life, they might not be posting all that stuff. Maybe it's a great business deal for them or a business opportunity. It could be. But a lot of people are very insecure. And I made this fascinating discovery that some of the most attractive people I've ever seen in my life also happen to be the most insecure. And there's good reasons for that, because they don't know who they can trust. They don't know whether someone just wants them for their looks, they don't know if they're going to be used, or whether someone wants them who really isn't interested in them. It's not what you think. And I think most people do know that. Yet we still fall into that trap of looking on Instagram Facebook and watching all these fabulous lives that these people have, and you buy into it, at least temporarily, and it can ruin your day. It's not real. None of it's real. It's not real. So and maybe some of it is real, but you don't know. So don't make the assumption that it is real, because it could likely be not real. So you don't know. That's this thing. You don't know. So the more you drop the fantasies, the more you don't get taken off into fantasy world. Oh, if I had that life, everything would be great. It's not true. So social media is mostly bullshit. Mostly, not all. Number 2, life is a process of exchanging one set of anxieties for another. So if you don't have money, your anxiety is you don't have money. When you do get money, your anxiety is then, how do I keep making this money? Now you have a new anxiety. Or maybe you start buying things, a bigger home. Now you have a bigger mortgage. You have to keep that money going. Now you got 2 kids. Got to keep it going even more. Wife is making demands, or it's your own ego that needs more power. Who knows what it is, but again, everything in life, you just exchange one set of anxieties for another. I have a friend who's in the music business, and he's worked with some top stars, let's put it that way. And he said, and this is not something that was, surprising to me, but it's just an interesting observation, that people who are famous or music stars, when they get famous, you would assume, oh, everything's great. But the reality is absolutely different, because their main objective in life, the thought that consumes them, is what happens if I'm no longer famous? How do I stay relevant? Because we know musical tastes change very quickly, and all these bands from the 80s that were so famous for such a short period of time, once grunge came along, once Pearl Jam came along, Soundgarden, the whole Seattle sound, all those hair bands in the 80s who they were the shit, they got reduced to playing, county fairs. I love them still, but, only a very few have sticking power. And that's the thing. And what Slash said about Michael Jackson, I thought this was always a great thing to hear. Slash was a guitarist for Guns N' Roses, and someone asked him about fame, and he said, we were the biggest rock band in the world, but we still didn't have Michael Jackson fame, and that's something he never wanted. And Michael Jackson, he said, you couldn't trust anybody. You don't know, you think most people are going to be trying to use you, and you might be right. If you're famous, it seems great because you get the money, the girls, the ego trip, the power, but you also lose anonymity. You lose security. You always have to have security with you. You can't go anywhere without people trying to take pictures with you. You can't trust people because Michael Jackson's own parents, I think, stole money from him. And you're paranoid because, again, you don't know who to trust. Is that what you really want? Again, you're just exchanging one set of stress for another. And even on a much lower level, the more successful you become in something, now you have more responsibility. Let's say you're a trainer and you start off without a lot of clients, but now you start building up clients. What if you start spending more money? Like, I have so many clients now, I can start buying things. I can move to this place, but now you got to keep that up. What about it? What happens if there's another economic downturn? One of the first things to go is personal trainers. So you're never going to escape the anxieties. So don't think that you can go from one place to another and be anxiety free. It's not going to happen. You just have to realize what's going on. So once you realize that life is a process of exchanging one set of anxieties for another, there is no, oh, when I have this, I'll not have more anxieties. I'll never be anxious again. No, you will be. You just have to realize that, and then you'll be okay with it. Anxiety comes with the program, and you can either accept it or change. Number 3, there is no external cure for what afflicts us internally. You cannot escape from what is bothering you on the inside. That's what addiction is. You try to find things that will cover up whatever you don't want to feel. I remember for me, I hated the feeling of loneliness. So I would do anything I could. I would go out. I was never big into illicit things, But I would go out, and I even realized reading books was still an escape from loneliness. Pretty harmless, but it was an escape. But it doesn't leave at that point. It's still going to come back. And you have to accept that certain things are not going to go away until you confront them directly. There is no "I'll be happier when." That's not going to happen. You have to confront what is internally bothering you. If you do not, you will be searching externally forever, and you're never going to be happy. You kind of have to give up. You have to give that up, that idea of it's out there. And I understand it's hard when people say, the thing that never made sense to me was when people would say, oh, happiness has to come from within you. Like, what the hell does that mean? What I realize it means now, although I don't think they know what it means, to me, it's hard to feel good about yourself. It's hard to get happiness from the inside if you don't feel good about yourself, because it's like, well, this doesn't feel good. How can it come from within? What I have found is you have to pay attention. Don't think. Pay attention to what you are doing in life that brings you a sense of fulfillment. It's not short-term pleasure. Completely different. That doesn't last. What do you do that brings you fulfillment, that makes you feel a different way, just kind of joyous, just energized? Pay attention to that. I'm not saying think about it, because if you think about it, you're gonna outthink yourself. You're gonna probably go in a different direction. This is not a thinking. Thinking is the issue. It's the problem. You have to pay attention to any type of situation that you're doing. You're like, wow, this was great. I just enjoy this. Again, not pleasure, just a sense of fulfillment. And pay attention to that and do it more often. And now you can understand where happiness comes from within, because that's what it's about. For me, it's doing PRI. For me, it's teaching salsa, because I've been doing that for a long time also. I'm lucky I found those things, and I was smart enough, I had read enough and started to understand this, to pay attention to those feelings. And then I used my thoughts to support those feelings so I could do them more. And hence, here's this channel. Identify what you're feeling, identify what makes you feel joyous, and do it more often. Use your thoughts to support that. And that is how you will relax, and you'll have less anxiety because you're actually doing things that you like to do and that bring you happiness. So there's no more searching for happiness. You know where it is. Number 4, fear of missing out. I mean, you're not missing anything. Social media, it seems like you're missing something, but we all know you're not missing anything. You've done everything. I mean, if you're 40, 30, I understand when you're in your 20s, you do your thing. Most people are still so completely dissatisfied because that's the nature of being in their 20s. As you move into 30s, you should probably catch on to the game that this doesn't seem to be working. There must be something else. You're not missing anything. You're just not. If you're not happy, you have to address what's going on inside you. Because if you don't address what's going on inside you, you're going to get into this fear of missing out, that you're going to miss out because that external thing is going to make you happy, and it never does. And yeah, you'll have a great night one night, and then you know what? You're going to try to do the same thing the next weekend. Never seems to work out the same way, because what you don't understand is that one night, it was conditional. A bunch of conditions came together, produced a great night. Maybe it was the best music, a good group of people, whatever. They all happened to come together to produce a great night. But now the situation has changed, those conditions have changed. You try to recreate it, it doesn't work, and then you're upset again. Now you're like, oh, well, that sucked. And now you have to go find another set of conditions or another party or whatever it's going to be. But that fear of missing out is what's keeping you unhappy and anxious and stressed out. And then number 5, you're not in control. Now, most people may get freaked out about that, but the fact is you really don't have a whole lot of control about anything in life. You don't control other people. You don't control the events that occur in the world. You don't control the economy. You're not in control. All you do control is you control your effort and how you treat people. and how you treat people. And you're not even, people's like, oh, I control my thoughts. I don't really think you control your thoughts, because your thoughts just come. And the secret is, from my point of view, is acknowledge the thought, and this is what meditation's about. Acknowledge the thoughts and let them go. The idea that you're only gonna be thinking happy thoughts, it's not gonna happen. You just can't get spun out of control when the thoughts come back, like the despairing thoughts. Yeah, do I get them? Sometimes. Not as frequently as I used to, but I just know I don't attach to them because I know it's conditional. It'll change. If I'm feeling lonely, I'm not a lonely person. But feeling lonely, it happens. But I just let it go. It's not a big deal, because I know it's not gonna last. It only becomes a big deal if you attach to it and make it your reality. And it's not the reality. You have lonely moments, and then you have very non-lonely moments. Sometimes when you're alone, you hate it. Other times you're like, thank God I'm alone. I can't stand these people anymore. Or you just need to chill out and relax by yourself. So it's all conditional. But you're not in control. You're just not. You're not in control. I might make a video. People might hate it. Some people might love it. So what are you gonna do? You can't get upset about whether someone hates your video or not, because you're gonna be now living for validation from people. You control it, your effort, you do your best. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Move on. Treating people, you do control how you treat people. Treating people, because of probably, I guess, how the human brain works, when you treat people well and it's reflected back to you, it makes you happier. There's really no reason to ever treat someone poorly, because it's just gonna make you miserable. Well, first of all, if you are treating people miserably or poorly, you probably already are miserable. But, helping people is way better than denigrating people. People who sit on the internet and criticize and never actually do anything themselves, you could get mad about that. I've gotten some trolls, but I know they're probably not very happy, and I've been there. I never would criticize other people online, but I understand the feelings that they're probably having. So those are my 5 relaxing thoughts. That definitely went on a little bit longer than I expected. But if you can start thinking about those things, if you've never have thought about those things, in the long run, they will be the biggest de-stressors that you could possibly have, because you'll actually be nice and relaxed, and you'll be okay with whatever happens in life.